I had a great weekend last weekend, I had my 8-year-old nephew in town, and he's a good kid, but his parents, they kind of just let him run free and do whatever the heck he wants to do, which is okay to an extent, but I mean, they really don't stop him for anything. Like one time we were at this family gathering, and I see the kid running across the front yard holding this sharp pair of scissors with the pointy end up, and he's running around with these things for a while and nobody says anything. And I thought to myself, hey, while I'm watching this kid for this week, I might as well somehow teach him the importance of not running with the pointy end up. So I decided to take him to a movie that I figured, from the title alone, it would be an appropriate way to teach him about not running with scissors. The film was called Blade Runner, so of course anyone with half a brain would figure, hey, this movie's gonna be about, some guy running with a scissors or a knife or something and the pointy ends up and he falls and hurts himself, and there will kind of be a lesson in that for the youth of America to learn that it's important to think about your actions before you take them. Maybe you should carry it with the blade side down so you don't poke your eye out. I mean, that just makes sense to me from the title. I take him to this movie, and it was like almost a 3-hour long movie, and not at one time in this movie did anyone run with scissors up, or was there any kind of scene that taught you about anything like that. In that respect, it was a bit of a disappointment. I thought that I was going to be able to teach this kid an important life lesson. All there was a bunch of big landscapes, long, big shots of these beautifully digitally crafted sets, and these robots and the holograms and flying cars and all this fancy stuff. And he enjoyed the movie, I think, and I enjoyed it too for the most part. Even though we both enjoyed the movie, I ended up leaving the theater a bit unfulfilled because, I thought I was going to be able to teach him this moral lesson. But where are the people running with the blades? I mean, I don't see anyone running, not even with a knife or a sword or anything like that, I mean, there are knives that they pull out for the fights, but no one's just running with it up for an extended period of time where they might trip and fall and impale themselves and teach the kids of America an important lesson about not running with scissors. So I was pretty disappointed overall about the false advertising of the moral message that was going to come with this production. But then, after I left the theater, I kept thinking about the movie and I thought, hey, maybe I'm just looking at this too much on face value, Maybe there's something deeper going on here. And I reflected on it a bit. And, the overall message of the movie, it's got the robots and they're trying to give birth to more robots so they don't need to depend on the humans anymore. And there's a conflict between whether or not certain characters are robot or human and what does consciousness even mean. And it's all very existential. And I realized this in itself, introducing these very deep and heavy existential ideas to my 8-year-old nephew was kind of like me running with scissors, I didn't do the research on this movie before taking him to the film. And what have I done? I've probably messed this kid up. I mean, he's asking me all these questions now about existence. What is my purpose of life? Why am I here? What if I'm just a robot? What is the point of any of this? And I really probably put some bad thoughts into this kid's head by bringing him to this movie. So, in a way, the whole Blade Runner thing was kind of a little switcheroo catch-22 trick on me. I went there taking him to this movie thinking that I'm going to be teaching him these lessons about, thinking about your actions before taking them, thinking about, how I should be holding the scissors before running across the room with them. I went there thinking I was going to be teaching him that, and in the end, the movie ended up teaching me that because I didn't think about what type of movie it was. I didn't even look at the fact that it was an R-rated film. There's nudity and sexuality and some graphic violence in there. And so, I probably kind of jumped the gun on that one, and I realized that, hey, maybe the kid isn't the one that needs to be learning the lesson, maybe it was me. This was kind of a learning experience for me. I did kind of feel bad about it in the end, though. At the end of the day, I still hadn't taught the kid the lesson. All I did was put a lot of dark messages into his brain that I'm going to have to somehow explain before his mother picks him up at the end of the week. I still gotta find some way to communicate to this kid the importance of thinking about your actions, so he doesn't make the same type of mistake that I made by taking him to this movie when he's older and he's got a nephew that he ends up taking to the movie, So I figured I might as well go back to my original concern, which was teaching him not to run with scissors with the pointy end sticking up. I made a short little film about that, and I decided to show it to him. And by showing him that, I figured it would kind of even out, I put all these dark existential ideas into his head, but I can also come and show him these moral lessons utilizing the video technology that I have access to today. And hopefully it'll kind of make up for the fact that I exposed him to some very dark existential questions about life. Overall, the Blade Runner film, it was a decent film, but because I kept dozing off throughout it with the very serene visuals and sounds, I'm only gonna give it a 13 out of 37. You know, it was good, it was decent, but it didn't quite hold my attention. Go see it if you're into that type of thing, but don't take any kids to it expecting it to show them some good moral messages about life, because they'll end up leaving with more questions than answers, and it's gonna get you into a bit of trouble with their parents, most likely.